What's up, everyone? Welcome to the sixth episode of the Scoops podcast. I am here with a longtime friend of mine, Gino. Say what's up, Gino.
What's going on, guys?
Man, Gino, I've known you since the sixth grade. And it's funny. I was thinking about this today. There's like so many levels to like our friendship. Like I'm sure you remember. I don't know if you do actually. We played that one-on-one game in eighth grade, like at the end,
Yeah, and
like
I
at
bodied you.
graduation.
I bodied you.
You
I took
beat
you to
me
the
really
paint
bad.
every single time. I
I
had
remember
him
that very
jumping.
clearly. Then all the times that we played in PE in high school, and then now coaching at Mar Vista, like there was a lot of levels to our friendship, and
Yeah,
we,
definitely.
yeah.
I mean, just basketball alone, but I mean,
Hmm.
like you said, just like friendship. I mean, we've known each other, like you said, since middle school, so it's been
Yeah, we've
crazy.
been around. Um,
It's been a long
obvious.
time coming, man. I'm excited for the podcast. We talking football. Super Bowl next week, so I can't wait to talk football. Now I'm playing. Wrong podcast. No,
And by your jersey, wrong podcast too.
of course, of course.
No.
I had to
So
represent,
I
of
I
course.
feel like I'm pretty sure you've told me this, but I always forget. How the heck are you a Boston fan and you've been in LA your whole life, right? You've been in LA your whole life?
Yeah. So, so there's something that Boston does when they blow out a team, and it's called Gino time. And I mean, it has obviously nothing to do with me, but as a young kid, I don't remember what exact game I saw, but it was televised. Um, and what it is essentially like it's this video from like the 70s, I think, and it's just a bunch of people dancing, and it's this one dude who has a shirt and it says like Gino time or something, and it's a bunch of old dudes and they're just dancing. It's super weird. You can look it up. And as a young kid, like I saw that, and as a young kid, like I didn't really like establish like a team. Um, this was when like the Lakers were like really good after like the three-peat and stuff. So like I didn't want to like the Lakers. I didn't like the Lakers for whatever reason. Um, and I saw that and I'm like, okay, like that means something. Like I connect with it. So that ever since then, like I became a Celtics fan. And plus like Pierce, like I was always a fan of Paul Pierce just because he was local. Um, but then I mean KG was kind of my favorite player growing up. So when he went to Boston, that was just kind of another like level where it was like, even though that was later in his career and I had already been a Celtic fan at that time, but
Hmm.
when he came and the big three started to get established, that was when I really like that was when like my fandom like took off. Like ever since that, I mean, it's been yeah.
Do you remember when it happened, the Paul Pierce crapping himself game? And did you think that he crapped himself at the time, or did you really think it was an injury?
Um, yeah, to both. Yeah, I think he grabbed himself because of the injury because he was in so much pain he couldn't hold it in.
No, I think he ate something bad or something. His stomach was messed up, crapped himself, hit the deck, and was like, "Oh
Yeah,
crap." Or you might be right actually. Maybe the injury was so bad he was just holding himself and he crapped himself on accident and
yeah.
then left.
Hey, I mean, this isn't, this probably isn't the type of podcast, you make, but there's some times, bro, where like, like you said, you eat some wrong things and, you bend over the wrong way and something might come out. So,
Yeah, no, you're
I feel
right.
like that was his situation. Who knows?
It's he admitted to it. That's the funny part that he admitted to it. I
Yeah.
never thought you come on. You never think
But
you'd
it
admit to
was
something
like
like
the
that.
way he admitted to it was like he was joking, but at the same time it was like, nah, bro, like we know, like we saw, like
Exactly.
there's no
Exactly.
explaining that. So don't try and pretend like it's a joke.
There's a little truth in every joke.
Yeah, definitely.
So so we're gonna get into some headlines. The first being there's been a lot of trade talk lately
Hmm.
about some players. The first that I want to talk about was the trade talk with Lonzo Ball.
Okay.
Uh, the Pelicans are reportedly shopping him, saying that him, JJ Redick, and Eric Bledsoe are all up
Mm.
on the trading block. Basically, they're shopping them around, trying to see what they can get back for them, and they've been in talks
Right.
with a lot of different teams. Uh, what do you think about that? Where do you think would be a good landing spot for him? There's been talks about the Warriors. There's been talks about the Blazers. There's been talk about the Clippers. Talk about a lot of different places of where Lonzo
Yeah.
more than anyone else could land.
So so Lonzo, if I remember correctly, Lonzo, I mean, he's testing free agency, right? This is his last season.
Yeah.
So I think they're just trying to ship him off because obviously he's expressed that he really doesn't really want to stay there. So they're just trying to ship him off to get something for him. Um, I like Lonzo. I think a lot of the, I guess, kind of attention that he got coming out of college. I mean, the hype, you know, Lakers fans were comparing him to Magic and stuff. I knew that was never going to like come to fruition. Um, but I always liked his playing style. Now that he's in the league, I feel like defensively he's really become like a factor. You know, his shot hasn't really developed as people kind of expected or wanted to, but I still think that he's a solid piece. I would like to see him go to the Warriors, um, just because I think he's in a way almost like the anti Curry, where he can provide some like defensive edge on the exterior. Um, he's another playmaker for that team. Um, and I think somebody like, I think to me, for him to get kind of like the leadership from a Draymond and to kind of develop into that player where like, I mean, Draymond was never an offensive force, but he did the little things really well. Defensively, he was a force, um, and he was a playmaker himself. So I think he could really, really like benefit from playing with a player like Draymond. Um, Plus, I mean, I think you know the Warriors. They have shooters, they have playmakers. I think personally, I think that would be a really good fit, and I think it would be fun to watch. Genuinely, like it would be fun to watch.
I've mentioned it earlier. I feel like Lonzo's just such in this like tweener place. Like
Yeah.
he's too good to come off the bench, but
Hmm.
like he shouldn't be at the two. Like he should be at the one for whatever team he's on. But it's like most of these trades that they're talking about have an established point guard already.
Right.
There's just I don't know. It just it feels like you're trying your best to get the best like win-win scenario for everyone that's involved in the trade, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And the main thing that you're looking for is what's best for Lonzo, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, it's tough when like because Lonzo's playing style. I feel like that adds another element of difficulty to it because, like you said, the places that they're projecting, they already have kind of an established point guard. Now you're trying to shoehorn him into a position he doesn't really fit. Um, and not only that, like his playing style in general is kind of like you don't really see a lot of that today. I mean, now you know you're expected to shoot, you're expected to score.
Yeah.
Um, you know these guards that you know are kind of defensive minded, um, playmakers. I mean, you don't see that a lot. Um, but I don't
I
know.
mean,
I mean, do you
you
think?
see it, but you don't see it in like there's no like superstars that like you see it as
Right,
like maybe like a role player,
right.
but if Lonzo is a
But
role
like you
player,
said,
he's
Lonzo's too like he's in that like
exactly.
yeah, yeah. I
So
mean,
it's
do you
tough.
think? I mean, I've seen videos and stuff. Like there was one that kind of went viral where he was driving and he had the lane wide open and he kicks it out. He was by like the free throw line, and everybody was saying, "Bro, like you gotta like take that hard. You gotta dunk it
Yep.
or something." And he
Mm-hmm.
passed it back out. So with him, it's like, is it a mental thing? Um, because you know he really hasn't developed into that player that everybody kind of thought he was going to be. Um, is it a confidence issue? Is it a mental thing? Is it just like this is what he is? Like, you know, you got to just accept him for what he is or whatnot. So I don't know. I mean, it's really tough. I think this second,
You can definitely be too passive, and there are
yeah,
times where Alonso is way too passive.
yeah, I agree. So I think this second contract, I think it's going to be crucial for him. Either he finds a place where he really fits in, he can kind of get, you know, his feet under himself again, he can get his confidence back, um, or it could take the complete opposite direction. I mean, he can go somewhere that, he doesn't fit, and then we kind of really see the last of him. Not the last of him, but, essentially the last of like what we had envisioned Lonzo would be. So it's going to be interesting.
And then the latest being Bradley Beal. There's been a lot of talk about people hashtag free Beal, get Beal away from the dumpster fire that has been the Washington Wizards. I've talked about this a few times in the podcast. There was, whether they were true rumors or not, there was rumors about when KD, before he went to the Warriors, all the different speculation of what team he was going to go to. And one of them was Washington because he's from Washington. You know how it's always that way with superstars. There's talk, oh, he's going to go to his hometown. He's going to go to his hometown. I feel like it rarely ever happens, but there was talk that he was going to go to Washington. And I was thinking, imagine like where Washington would be right now if they had KD. Like it would just be such a different place. Like, because KD wouldn't be there alone. Someone would eventually go play with KD at some point in Washington. Like maybe they'd be a contender, maybe they'd be a top team in the East. Like who knows? But they got.
And at that time, Washington was established. Like they were making the playoffs every single year. They were looking decent. Like they needed one more player to really kind of break through.
And if that was KD,
and I remember we had some battles with them with IT and stuff, and
you talk about with John Wall and Bradley Beal and them,
So like they were kind of on that cusp, and I think when they missed out on KD, it's almost like they kind of put all their chips on KD, and when he didn't come, it was like, okay, what do we really do now? We're kind of in this limbo.
They were just that's the last place you like. We talk about that all the time. It's the last place you want to be in basketball. You don't want to be in the middle because you're not going anywhere. And with just John Wall and Beal and an assortment of role players, you're in the middle. You're not going anywhere. And it feels as if they kind of got the lesser end of the bargain with the Westbrook trade, because John Wall has been balling in Houston on his way back. I don't think anyone was expecting him to come back like that.
You love to see it. I love John Wall.
Me too. I do like John Wall. I feel he feels like one of those players that he needs the ball in his hands all the time, and I'm not a big fan of those players that like when the ball isn't in your hands, you're not really doing much. But I mean, it's been working in Houston. They're on a little winning streak. They got Christian Wood. They got Victor Oladipo now. It's looking nice. And it's whether he is that player or not, it's nice. It's nice to see him succeed, especially through all the bad stuff that's happened to him with his injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, that Houston team is completely like. I mean, I looked at the roster like a couple days ago. That team is completely like switched around. I'm like, wait, he plays there? What?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, I think with him, John Wall, I mean, nobody really expected him to kind of make the comeback that he did. But at the same time, I think he really, really benefited from the trade because that Houston team, doesn't seem explicitly built around him, but all of the pieces kind of fit around him. So his playing style, it kind of elevates that entire team. And like you said, nobody really expected him to come back the way he did, but he really kind of hit the ground running.
Oh yeah.
He
looked good in the preseason. He looked good in the preseason, and you got him running a pick and roll with Christian Wood. You got a spot up shooter in Eric Gordon who could also get his own shot when he needs to. You got a good player and a good scorer in Victor Oladipo. DeMarcus Cousins has his good games and his bad games. So yeah, they have pieces here and there. They're decent. They're not gonna go anywhere. They're a middle team with no major star, but it's still nice regardless to see John Wall come back and to see that potentially at some point there could be a future for John Wall in the NBA.
Yeah,
winning something at some point. Like it's not over for him.
Exactly. But with Beal, I think he needs to go. Especially with the Westbrook. That really makes no sense to me.
I've heard people say the Clippers. I've heard people say Beal should go to LA, play with Kawhi, PG, or whoever they keep after that trade. that's
I
definitely a
mean,
contender. You definitely help them
yeah,
win games, but
I remember last season there was rumors about him going to Miami,
I've heard
and
that too.
I think that would be a pretty good fit. I know Miami's kind of struggling a little bit now. To be honest, me personally, I think Miami overachieved a little bit last season, just based off like what they had their roster. I mean, they had a lot of young guys that they relied on that came up big in some pretty clutch moments. So I'll give them that. But from a talent level, I mean, their coach is outstanding. But I think from a talent level, I still think they really kind of need another piece to really be established.
Yep.
And I don't think they need a big piece. They don't need a KD or Giannis or whatever. But I do think a player like Beal, I feel like could potentially kind of take them over the top.
Yeah.
So I would like to see that. But the Clippers, I mean, the Clippers wouldn't be that bad,
I feel like for either, it depends on what you're giving up for them.
right?
If you're the Clippers, if you're or the Clippers or the Heat, whatever team is getting Beal, what are you giving up for Beal?
Yeah, I mean, the Heat are definitely going to have to get rid of some of those young players.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
that's the
I know
thing. Like the
Washington,
Heat, they went to the finals, but they still have like young players that can be the future of their franchise. Do you risk trading
right?
those young players because you got so far last season and you're trying to make the push now? Like, is it worth making that? Like, what if you don't win? Then you
Right.
traded away those young players for nothing. It's tough. It's a tough decision to make, especially if it's not like a super close guarantee. Like the Lakers trading away their young players for AD, that was pretty much a guaranteed ring right there with
Yeah.
AD and LeBron. But with the Heat, it's not. There's so many competitors, and you still have to deal with the championship Lakers. Like you don't know if you're gonna win a ring off of that trade or not.
But I mean, if I was the Heat, you got there, and I mean, it was ugly in the finals, but you got there. So, here's your window. Like, I mean, I know those young guys, it's attractive to, keep those and build around them. Um, Obviously somebody like Bam, I think is untradeable. That's not even in the picture. Um, but like I said, I mean, here's your window. Like nobody in the East, I feel like made a trade or made a move. Even the Bucks with the holiday trade, like I don't think nobody really made a move that like elevated them to another level. So I think if the Heat are thinking the East is on even playing ground from last season, we add Beal now. Okay, we know we can make it to the finals. Let's add Beal. Yeah, we give up a lot of some of our the young guys and the depth a little bit, but we got to make a move. We got to make a splash. But I
The
mean, I don't
Sixers are
know. Do
playing
you?
really well. The Sixers have been.
Yeah,
Joel Embiid has been having a hell of a season.
yeah.
Um, so I don't know. It's it's
And I
it's a
mean, you
it's a
also
tough
got to think
decision.
with the Lakers, like, do you I mean, the Lakers look like the favorites. I mean, unless the Clippers, I feel like the Clippers are the only team that can really rival them. But we know how they show up in the playoff time. So, do you kind of wait it out for the Lakers to kind of, die off, or what do you do? I mean, with Miami, especially because they have young players. So that's something that, they can kind of look forward to in the future while waiting for LeBron to retire or whatever. But
And I mean,
um,
if they get Beal and they can keep him there, Beal's not in his 30s. He's not
right,
super old.
right,
Jimmy is relatively young too. Bam is young, and he's going to he's going to continue to get better. It's like these main pieces that you would hopefully keep from that trade. It's like you still have a solid core, even if you give up someone like maybe Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson. As important as they
exactly.
were, Beal is going to pick up the slack that you lose for them.
Right. And I mean, you're losing scoring from them. If it's
And that's what
Robinson or
Beal will give
Hero,
you.
and Beal is, I mean, he's leading the league in points. So like I mean, you're not. It's not a significant drop off, I would think.
There's just something scary about a guy like Duncan Robinson having to play a guy like that because you never know and you have to be on your toes every second he's on the court. You fall asleep for half a second and that's a 3-pointer
Yeah.
just for half an inch. Like having a player on your team like that is underrated at times and underappreciated because he'll just go off for a couple 3-pointers that keeps you in the game or gives you the lead or anything like that. And it's like that trading away a piece like that, it could come back and bite them, because that was a level to their game really in the playoffs, was
Yeah.
Duncan Robinson and how deadly
And
he was.
it's a player like that that like usually wins you games. Like you need one player, especially come playoff time when the rotations are a little bit smaller. You need somebody to come in and either provide a spark or give you that edge scoring wise or defensively. We know Jimmy was going to give us what Jimmy does. Bam too. I mean, Dragic had a couple of good games, so like we knew what like the stars were going to give us, and then you add in somebody like Robinson, who, like you said, he makes 1 3 by the fourth quarter. That's up to 5. I mean, that's the type of stuff that wins you the games. That really, like you said, extends you the lead or gives you the lead or takes you out of the hole to maybe compete. So yeah, I mean, he's like a little Swiss Army knife. Like when you need somebody to provide that spark, you look for Robinson. But I personally, I mean, I think Beal is. I
He's
mean, I
worth
think
it.
he's great. Yeah, I think he's worth
He's
it.
worth it. Yeah. Um, and when it comes to the Heat, and the point you made about the East for the most part being relatively the same, minus a couple moves here or there, you
Right.
always got to remember that it's not like you have to be the greatest of all time. You just have to be the greatest in the room. You have to be the
Exactly.
best of who you're competing with, and you got to be prepared when you play them in the playoffs. Like the Heat, I made a bet that the Heat were gonna beat the Bucks, because they, in the regular season, they kind of had their number, and Bam was doing a good job, and they had a lot of defenders that they were switching onto Giannis. They were just a problem for the Heat, and
Right.
they ended up beating them. And a lot of people thought the Bucks were going to win, and because of Giannis and what they had, but they didn't. So you just, you got to be the best in the room. And I think that if they if they traded Beal, they have a potential for sure to be the best in the room. They're not having that great a season right now. Jimmy Butler's been dealing with some stuff, but they can get back there again potentially, especially
Yeah.
with
And I
after
mean
a trade like that.
that's like I said, that's got to entice you if you're running the organization, knowing that you were just there, and a player like Beal who, on paper would fit in seamlessly, um,
Mm-hmm.
and is a good enough player to where you can trade away pieces and know that what you're getting in return is going to give you impact. Um, so, and I mean, like you said, with the Bucks, I mean, I don't, unless Giannis can produce come playoff time, I'm not not my MVP. He's not
I've been
mine.
hearing that a lot too.
So I mean, with them again, like they are scary, but like I said, if Giannis can't produce consistently, I don't see them going anywhere. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, the Sixers are looking good as long as Embiid can stay healthy, and can continue to produce. As much as I love for us to be there, I don't think we have the depth as the other teams. So I think really, I mean, it's you're looking at Miami. If they can make that trade happen, I think they would be there again.
And of course, we're forgetting the Brooklyn Nets, who they don't have that
Oh
much. They don't have that much
yeah,
depth, and a lot of people are questioning whether that's going to come back and bite them in the end. But I mean, they have
yeah.
arguably the best big three in basketball right now.
And I would love to see that from a matchup standpoint, the Heat and the Nets, because the Heat have some gritty defenders, on the interior and exterior, and
The Nets have some crazy
the Nets
scores. It's
exactly
going to be
all around the
offense against
board.
defense.
So exactly.
That would be
So
a fun matchup.
the debate of what wins you championships, hey, that's gonna
That's the
that'll be
series
handled there.
that's the series that question
Yep.
gets answered. But
The
going
Eastern
back,
Conference championship, not
yeah,
the actual championship, because who knows
yeah.
if either of those teams is gonna beat the Lakers.
But going back to the Celtics, I want to give you a minute to talk about the
Hmm.
Celtics and your team. You specifically wanted to talk about one
Yeah, I'm gonna
player,
need
so go
more than a
ahead, take
minute.
the floor. Take the
Need
floor.
more than a minute. No,
Go ahead.
no, I think we kind of talked about it earlier. You said that like transition period where you're kind of in the middle. That's the worst to be as a team. And I genuinely think like we're kind of in that position. A lot of people see us as contenders or whatever just because of on paper what we have. Um, but I mean, I genuinely think like the Kemba situation, the Hayward. I mean, look at what Hayward's doing. Obviously, that situation with us, it sucked all around because of injuries and whatnot. It seemed just kind of like bad luck. But I genuinely believe he was a good player.
Hmm.
Um, with the Kemba situation, I think we expected him to come in and fill that Kyrie role, and essentially, in ways he does. Um, but the injuries, man, like giving up that much money and that big of a contract for a player who's undersized, for a player who defensively can be considered a liability. We saw last year in the playoffs against Toronto, offensively he was a complete liability. So there was times where Kemba like was genuinely one of the worst players on the court, both teams. So when you have that much investment into a player like that, I don't like it. Um, we essentially had that with Hayward too, but Hayward just couldn't stay healthy. So it's
Hmm.
like you have these two players invested so much into these two players, and when push comes to shove, they're not really producing. Um, that's a problem. So I mean, it's essentially one of those things where like, we have the two young pieces who Jaylen Brown. I mean, come on, bro, like All Star. Come on, I mean, we're talking MVP,
Aren't they
maybe.
still the highest scoring duo in the NBA? Brown
I
and
think
Tatum?
so.
I'm pretty sure they're
I
still
think
up there.
so. I saw a stat a couple of days ago. Obviously, I'm pretty sure it's changed by now, but like Jalen, I think was like top five in terms of total points scored. Um, and then he was behind Curry, I think was one, and Jalen played like 50 minutes less than Curry. So we give him extra 50 minutes. Who knows? Who knows where he'll be? But I mean, it's clear those are the two guys that we got to build around. Um,
Are they too
I,
similar to build around?
nah, nah,
No.
nah. I think if anything, I think because Brad Stevens does not call any plays for Jaylen Brown. Like Jalen is just kind of like the forgotten child of the
That's what I'm
team.
saying. What I'm saying is who are you choosing between those two guys? The obvious answer is Jason Tatum, as anyone would
Right,
choose. So
right.
it's like, are you going to like you like you said, he's a forgotten child. You forget about him. And everyone talks about Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics, Jason Tatum, and then like, oh yeah, and Jalen Brown. We're on maybe 10%, 30% of the teams that are in the NBA, he would be probably their best player on some of those teams.
Yeah,
He would be their best player, if second best, and he'd be, talked about all the time.
yeah. Well, I think the reason for that is, I mean, a lot of it is on Kemba. I hate to sound like this is a Kemba roast session, but you know, Kemba, I mean, he was like when we signed him, it was kind of like that was really kind of before Tatum really, really like started to establish himself as probably the best player by now, the best player on the team. So when Kemba came, it was kind of like, okay, Kemba's going to be that go to guy, kind of like Kyrie was. And then we just need Tatum and Brown to continue to grow as players. But with Kemba kind of in and out of the fray, now Tatum's making that jump. Um, Celtics fans, it's funny because even when we drafted Jalen, um, he was still such like a raw prospect. And you know how Danny Ainge is with his, athletic wings. All you
Mm-hmm.
need to do is play defense and provide length, and hopefully, everything plays out.
Yep.
And Jalen actually did that. So I think that was kind of the reason why, originally we signed Hayward, because we didn't really expect Jalen to make that jump. And year three or whatever, the year he got that contract extension, which was
Mm-hmm.
last year,
Mm-hmm.
um, I mean the jump was outstanding. So I feel like initially those first couple of years, Celtics fans were just kind of like, all right, it's a traditional Danny Ainge pick. Let's see, kind of like Justice Winslow. I mean, we were projecting, we wanted to trade for him on draft day, and like, look at where it's the same thing. So when Jalen really made that jump, I feel like that kind of threw a wrench in things because we didn't expect him to.
Yep.
Um, but I mean, apparently, the organization had trust in him. and I'm glad they did because I think he's a massive player. I think he has potential to be a star if he's not one already. Um, so I mean, I really think back to roasting Kemba. I think we got to get rid of him because that's not those three guys to me. We're not going anywhere with them, um, especially with our depth. I would love to get rid of Kemba, offload him. If we could get some depth, if we can get some presence in the interior, now I think we're talking to where we can really like genuinely become a contender. But um, seeing how Kemba was just so unreliable in the playoffs last year, like I don't know. And I still think Jason and Jalen, I think they need to continue to grow. I think Jason plays way too much ISO. He settles for threes way too much. I think he needs to attack more. He needs to get to the free throw line. So there's a lot that I think we need to improve on, and I
Tell
think we
me,
need to kind of go ahead.
tell me what you think about Daniel Tice.
I think he's good. Um, to me, I don't think he's good enough for a contender. Um, I think the war on Tice continues because he gets so many bad calls. But regardless,
I agree with
I
you on
don't
that.
I don't think he's nearly good enough um, to be like the starting five on a contender. We've seen a lot of promise from Robert Williams.
Hmm.
I don't think again. I don't. He's one of those players where like you're kind of banking on him to make a lot of progression. But he's still relatively young. I don't think you can just kind of force him in and expect him to ball out. But um, again, like I said, I think if we want to be contenders, we need to upgrade at that position.
I
But I
feel like the
like Tice though.
majority, the majority of your big men are like they can be on a championship team. They should not be starting on a championship team.
Right, and that's always kind of been the Celtics. Like
Yeah,
even with like Horford, like yeah, Horford was good, um, and he was good for our system and how we played. But like, I mean, we need a defensive presence down low. Like we couldn't rely on Aaron Baines. Like as much as I love Bainesy, like we couldn't rely on him. Um, so yeah, I mean, I like I said, I think we need an upgrade at that position for sure.
yeah. Um, Speaking of the Celtics, Celtics head coach Brad Stevens said something about LeBron recently that I want to talk to you about. He said
Mm-hmm.
that if people didn't get bored, if people didn't, want to see something different all the time, that LeBron would have more MVPs than he does now. Do you agree with that statement?
Completely, completely agree. Yeah, I think LeBron. When you look at, I think there's kind of a disconnect between what MVP stands for and like how the voting is decided and all of that stuff. Um, you could make a very very strong case that LeBron was the most valuable player on his team for the last 10 years. Like if somebody told me LeBron should be 10-time reigning MVP, I'd be like, okay, I completely understand
Who's
it.
going to argue with it?
Exactly. So I think that is it plays a key factor. Um, I genuinely think that like the regular season MVP, I think it should include playoffs because again, like I mentioned earlier, look at what happens when Giannis wins, and now Giannis gets to the playoffs and he's at points of non-factor.
Yeah, that's a strange thing, isn't it? You have a finals MVP, you have a regular season MVP. What about the stuff that leads up to the finals? Like what about the
Right.
playoffs?
Yeah. So I think it should be all kind of inclusive. Playoffs, regular season, obviously finals. That's a little bit different because it's only two teams to pick from.
Hmm.
But um, I think it includes playoffs. If you're talking, because name the last MVP that didn't make the playoffs. Like I can't do it.
That's the
So
thing. I've Juan from the Max and Juan podcast. They he would always say that the MVP is really just, you know, best player on the best team in the NBA. Like that's usually who the award goes to because it's like
Right.
it's a regular season award. So whoever leads their team to the best record and they were the top, that's usually who gets the MVP. When that's not what MVP should mean. It's most valuable player to that team. I mean, kind of
Right.
regardless of whether they're number one or not, who's the most
Hmm.
important, not just how well did your team do. That should be a different
Exactly.
award.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think. I mean, I'm one of the people that I like when you strip it down, most valuable player, like you said, to their team, who is, who's elevating their team to another level, who took a team from, right out of the playoffs and now they're, a top seed because of that addition. Like, I just, I don't know. I don't like the whole popularity contest. It seems like, it just seems very cheap. The top team, their best player, okay, let's give them MVP. It's like, nah, like it's a little bit more complex than that.
Yep.
So I don't know if you want to make like you said, make a completely different trophy, or you want to kind of really go to what MVP stands for. But I think the way they do it now, I think it's cheap. I don't think it has the same, um, like the award just seems like it doesn't have the same like quality as it did years ago.
Yep. Um, Speaking of LeBron, I wanted to ask you just a general basketball question.
Hmm.
Um, and the easiest players to use in this example are LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. But the question is, what style player do you want on your team as like the guy? Do you want a player like a LeBron who is, a pass first player he does so much stuff for your team, but his one of his best qualities is his passing and
Hmm.
how throughout his career he has been seen as passive in times where he should not be passive? Or do you go with a Kobe Bryant type player, a scorer, a guy who believes he should have that last shot and who is going to take that last shot no matter what and make it usually more often than he misses it? But there are going to be those times where he takes way too many shots than he should have, or he takes some ill-advised shots. There's
Yeah.
pros and cons to both players. Which player is the player that you want on your team?
So I think we can kind of approach this from two different perspectives. If I am a part of the organization and I'm building a team, I think I want a player like Kobe, somebody who is going to somebody's going to handle it. Like when you need somebody to handle it, Kobe's going to do it. If I'm the other perspective is if I'm a player, um, who do I want to play with? I'm obviously going to play with a guy like LeBron because he's going to give me the best opportunities to succeed. So personally, just me overall, I like the Kobe type player. Um, in my superstar, I want that guy in the clutch moments, in the key moments. I want him to be the guy. You call his name and he delivers. Like you said about LeBron, I don't. Sometimes he can be a bit too passive. Um, we're paying you the big bucks to make the play. Don't pass it to somebody. We're playing, a vet minimum to make the play. I know he's a professional too,
That's the thing. That's the
but
thing. Like in the finals last season, remember the pass he made to Danny Green, wide open
yeah,
3-pointer. Danny Green, one of our perimeter shooters, and he misses it. And LeBron got a lot of heat for passing up.
yeah,
But it's like, isn't that the right basketball play?
it was the right basketball play. And as a professional, you expect Danny Green to hit that shot. Somebody who is considered one of the best 3-point shooters, um, in at least recent years or whatnot. But I mean, that's kind of his specialty is shooting the three ball. So you expect him to make that shot. Um, but at the same time, like I said, like I don't want my superstar putting us in that position. Like I remember, like you said, I remember a lot of like the flack he got for it. And I remember so many people, hey, Kobe would have took on three guys in the paint. Jordan would have, hit a fadeaway or something. So you're right, it is the best basketball play, but I don't know. I think if I'm paying you all that money, I want you doing it.
And
Just because,
to the point
go
that
ahead.
you made though, to the point that you made about it, like the perspective of the organization versus the team. I mean, there's also a point to be made. If you're Kobe Bryant's teammate at the end of the game, you're feeling pretty comfortable. You know that that last shot's going to be handled by Kobe Bryant. I feel like when you're on LeBron's team, you don't know where that ball's going to go. It's going to be the best. It's going to, with the ball in LeBron's hands, he may shoot it, he may pass it, depending on what's the best look. But Kobe, in Kobe's head, the best look is whatever shot he gets himself over anyone else shooting it. So if you're someone like, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but if you're someone like a Derek Fisher, a Luke Walton, someone like that, you're kind of like, you know what? Kobe's got this. Versus if you're with LeBron, it's like, you know what? That ball might come to me. I got to be ready for it.
Because, I mean, a player like Kobe has the proven track record. I mean, he showed up those times. You can't expect any player, any style, to 100% perform. When the big play needs to be made, they make it 100 times out of 100 times. There's going to be times where it just doesn't happen, doesn't fall. But at the same time, like you said, if you're a player like Derek Fisher, yeah, I mean, Kobe has the track record to do that. Like, you let him take that shot. You let him, handle his business, do what he does best. And if it goes in, which it usually does, you guys win. If it doesn't, all right, you move on.
Yeah, people joked about, or everyone always joked, or Charles Barkley specifically jokes about Shaq riding Kobe's coattails. And of course he didn't. Shaq pulled his own weight, but there were players that did ride Kobe's coattails because of everything that Kobe could do and how clutch he was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
I think Kobe is Kobe's one of those players that, like, over the years, I mean, as an organization, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at it through, like, kind of the organization standpoint. I want a player like Kobe. I want a player that, makes the big shots. I want a player that is vocal. I want a leader. And I'm not saying LeBron isn't that, but it's just he's all of that stuff, but in different ways. And I don't know. For me, I guess that's just a preference that I like those Kobe type players who can go out and get it. Don't really rely on others.
People always say, LeBron for the first 46 minutes and someone like Kobe for the last 2 minutes, but it's like, you got to choose one. It's not how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Another general question, another general basketball question that I've heard asked many times over the years. Would you rather have been a bench player or even just a role player who has won one or maybe multiple rings? Or would you rather be a superstar, borderline Hall of Famer with no rings at the end of your career?
I would like to be the bench player with rings. Just because, like, I don't know, there's something that kind of appeals to me about, like, those, especially like those six men. Like, the guys that kind of come in, provide a spark, whether it's defensively or whether it's a scoring option or whatnot. But those guys, to me, I feel like are usually, I mean, I can't say, I mean, the superstar is definitely, like, they're a fan favorite, but it's those guys that are, like, kind of like in the middle that, like, got you to win the game because they're the sixth man. Like, I feel like, for example, I mean, I'll talk about the Celtics, like Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart is that guy that makes the winning plays. He's not the superstar, but in Boston, we will give up our first kid for Marcus Smart to play for the organization forever. So it's people like that I think, kind of, they don't get the limelight as the superstars do, but you're infinitely, the amount of respect from the organization and your teammates too.
Yeah, players like that become hometown heroes. They become so well loved by those teams that they won that championship with.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
and I mean,
superstars with championships, they get loved by everyone, but those guys get love from those organizations usually.
yeah, and I mean, to go back to the question, I mean, the question is saying, you're one of those people, and you have a championship. Like, what's there not to love about that? Yeah, I mean, you don't get the limelight, but at the same time, like, what are you playing the basketball game for? Are you playing it to win? Or are you playing it for the money, for the fame, and all of that? So, um, yeah, I think, and plus with superstar, like, if you're a superstar, your name is always going to be associated with the greats, um, and that level of not having a championship, that's always going to get thrown in there. Um, so I think I'd rather take like a cut in terms of like overall talent, um, in exchange for the ring. And like you said, like that hometown love. I mean, that to me, like it feels like it would be like you'd be living on cloud nine, knowing that you got a championship and you're loved by your city. Like that's
Let me throw two names out there then. Let me throw two names. Matt
okay.
Barnes and Carmelo Anthony. Who'd you
Oof.
rather be?
Yeah. See, when you put it like that,
that's
um,
that's how it is.
yeah. I mean, I think, yeah. No, I think I'd probably be mellow at that point.
Okay. Let me
No, because I
throw.
think. Okay, go ahead. Go
I'm
throw
gonna
two
throw out
more.
two more. Luke Walton,
Oof.
Chris Paul.
See, I'm Chris Paul.
Okay.
So my theory just kind of went out the window. Yeah. But I mean, I'm a fan of those two guys. Like I love Chris Paul. So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
but okay. So, but I think you're doing me a little bit of injustice.
No, yeah,
I
no,
feel like
definitely. I
I
agreed.
feel like the theory of like bench player, but like he's a solid role player. I don't think like Luke Walton and Matt Barnes really fit in that role. Like I think it's a little bit somebody a little bit at a different level.
Okay. I'll throw two more.
All right.
Uh, Glenn Davis, or we'll go with Melo. Glenn Davis was an important part of that Celtics organization,
Yeah, but like
that
he's like a
Celtics ring.
meme. So like I
Okay,
mean,
maybe that wasn't the best example. Okay, I agree. It's just like
no, but I
anything.
get what you're saying. Yeah, like
Yeah.
in that situation, yeah, Glenn Davis, because Glenn, I mean, he is loved by the Celtics organization. Like we know, like he's one of us. Like we know,
Yeah.
um, but with him, it's kind of different. Like I said, he's kind of like a meme. Like I mean, his name is like Big Baby. Like so, it's a little bit different, but still, like I think that's a good example. Like I would definitely rather be him because I mean he played a solid role, um, but it was never really anything to kind of like be in awe about or whatever. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean he was successful, and like I said, he played a role.
So you choose Big Baby Davis.
Yeah. Well, who was the superstar?
I said Melo, but let's say Chris Paul, one of the best point guards of our generation, who has not won a championship, or
Yeah,
Glenn Davis, who is loved by the Celtics for winning a championship.
that's tough.
That's very
That's
tough.
really tough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's tough because, like you said, Chris Paul is definitely one of the best of all time. Like I think he's maybe considered. I mean, I think he's top five point guards of all time. Maybe even be considered top three. I don't know. That's a debate for another day. But
Mm-hmm.
um, I think I would still probably go with Glenn Davis, just because if I'm
Wow.
playing in that role, it's to win a championship.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave it all on the floor for my team, and winning the ring. I feel like that's the ultimate goal. So
Yep.
when you reach that level, nothing, no amount of fame, no amount of stardom, that'll never really kind of touch that ring.
Two more examples. Two
All
more
right,
two more players. Okay. Karl Malone or Kostas Antetokounmpo last year for the Lakers.
Antetokounmpo, no brainer. The mailman, what? Like he's what? A
Okay.
mailman? Come on.
Okay. Cool. Just making sure. Um, to wrap up, the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna play a little game. We're gonna play our own version of TNT's Who You Play With, but we're gonna
Okay.
play what teams did he play for. So I'm gonna give you
Okay.
5 NBA
I got a
players.
Charles Barkley jersey. Should I switch that on instead?
No, do not. You're gonna get all the answers wrong if you do. So I'm gonna name you 5 NBA players, and you're gonna tell me what teams they played for throughout their careers. Okay.
Okay.
And these will get
Okay. So
progressively harder.
okay. Is it? Do they have they played for multiple teams?
Each one of these have played for multiple teams. Yes.
Okay. So I just got to get one team.
You got to get all the
Hold on.
teams.
Oh. Okay. All right. All right.
You got to name every team that these players have been on.
Oof. Okay. All right. Let's
In
do
the first player, I feel like you should be able to get. All right.
All right. All right. This is pressure. All right. Let's do it.
You ready? First
Yeah.
player. It's not time, so take your time. Kevin Garnett. What teams did Kevin Garnett play for?
Okay. The Timberwolves.
Mm-hmm.
The Celtics.
Yes.
The Nets.
Yes.
That's it, right?
That's it. Those are the 3 teams.
Okay.
I told you.
All
You're
right,
one
all
for
right.
one. I told you.
All
All right. Second team. Carmelo, or second player, excuse me, Carmelo Anthony.
Okay. The Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
OKC.
Yes.
The Knicks.
Yes.
The Blazers.
Yes.
And the Rockets.
Yes, sir. Those are the teams. Good job. All right.
So, all right.
Third player. Allen Iverson.
Oof. Okay.
Yep.
76ers.
Yep.
The Nuggets.
Yep.
Yikes.
I told you.
Pistons.
Yes. You got one more.
Jeez.
I told you they get progressively a little harder.
So he finished with this team, right? Or
This
did
was
he
the
finish
last team
with
he
the
played for.
Pistons?
No, I think he did play for another organization.
So this is just NBA teams, right? We're not talking like
Yeah, no, we're not talking about China.
Okay.
This is not China. No.
The Eastern Conference or Western?
Western. I'd actually be surprised if you got this.
I got no clue.
None whatsoever.
Hold on, let me think. I'm trying to think of all the teams.
None. You give up?
Yeah, I give up.
The Memphis Grizzlies.
Really?
Yeah, he did have a small amount of time with the Memphis Grizzlies.
Did he play a full season there?
I believe so. I would have to double check on that, but yes, I remember he was in a Grizzly uniform.
Damn, I would have never got that.
Okay, so
that's crazy.
2 full ones, and then Allen Iverson, you were only 1 off. So the next player, and like I said, they're gonna get progressively harder.
Yeah.
Tracy McGrady.
Oh. Okay, the Magic.
Yep.
The Rockets.
Yep.
T-Mac played for the Pistons.
Yep.
The Spurs.
Yeah, nice.
And he won a ring with the Spurs, right?
I don't believe so. Did he? No.
I think so.
No.
We have to look that up.
We are gonna have to check that out.
I think that when they beat the Heat, I think he was on the bench.
You have 3 more teams.
3 more?
Yeah.
Oh my.
You got to bring your thinking cap for the Scoops podcast.
Raptors.
Yep, the Raptors. There's 2 more.
Okay, I think he played for Memphis too.
Nope.
Damn.
It's a good guess though. Good guess. I thought that too.
Eastern or Western? Because I'm struggling now. I can't remember anything else.
Eastern or Western? Both of these teams are Eastern.
And these are at the tail end of his career, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty
everything
much,
I've
yes.
mentioned, I feel like is.
Yes.
Did he play for the Nets?
He did not play for the Nets.
Let's think. Jesus. 76ers?
Nope.
All right, you're gonna have to throw in the towel
Okay.
here.
Okay. The New York Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks.
Oh, I could have got the Hawks. If I would have thought longer, I could have got the Hawks. But the Knicks?
Yeah.
When?
I gotta look up the years. But yes.
Jeez.
All right. And the last player, the last level of difficulty.
Okay.
The big Aristotle, the big Shactus, Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh, okay. Oof. It's just all the teams. The whole NBA.
Surprisingly, T-Mac played for more teams than Shaq did.
Wow.
Yeah. T-Mac played for 7. Shaq played for 6.
I remember seeing a graphic with a picture that Shaq played for teams that like completed the rainbow.
Yep, I saw that too.
Color. So
yep,
I'm gonna go
he
by
played
that.
for every
Okay,
color of the rainbow.
So obviously the Magic, the Lakers,
Yep,
the Heat,
yep,
the Suns,
yep,
Celtics.
yep.
Oof, wait, hold on.
So one more.
Whoa. Hold on, I know this.
It was between the Heat and the Celtics. Between those two teams.
Hold on, I know this. That was really like when he like started to really go downhill.
Yeah.
All right, let me go through the rainbow then, because I'm gonna need help. All right, so red. I'm assuming that was the Heat.
Eastern Conference team.
So it's either that indigo or violet.
You're seriously going through the rainbow.
I'm seriously going through it.
I can give you a hint, but it will be the hint that gives it away. So whenever you're ready to throw in the towel.
Nah, hold on, I know this.
You don't know it.
Nah, I do. You said it's Eastern.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm just going through the teams. Okay, so we got the Celtics already. So it wasn't the Nets, wasn't the Knicks, wasn't the Sixers, wasn't the Raptors, wasn't the Bulls. Was it the Cavs?
It was the Cavs. I don't know if you remember.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. The whole campaign of get a ring for the king. You don't remember that?
Nah.
No, it was a big like magazine cover.
Nah.
Yeah. Played with LeBron.
Wow. Oh wow. Damn, I wouldn't even. That's crazy.
Yep.
That's crazy. Well, I know what I'm doing tonight. I'm watching Shaq Cavs highlights and AI Grizzlies.
You didn't do that bad. You only missed a handful of 5 players that have been on a good amount of teams.
Yeah, no, I thought I was gonna do way worse. I thought you were gonna hit me at the end, like somebody like Jeff Green.
Oh no, that's a hard one. No,
Yeah,
I gave you bigger names.
yeah, no, that definitely helped. And the the rainbow, which doesn't really that didn't even really help. Like, what are the Cavs? Like, the Cavs are red, right? Like, what?
They have like a million different uniforms that he could have been in that
Yeah,
picture in. So yeah.
that's true. Yeah, I didn't even think like the past uniforms. Those uniforms have changed so much. So like going off the rainbow, yeah, that was not a good idea.
So before we end, there was a question that I wanted to ask you way in the beginning that
Hmm.
I'm asking now. Favorite Celtic of all time? Is it KG?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's KG just because KG is my favorite player of all time, and he just
Mm-hmm.
so happened to be a Celtic too. Um, but I think if you took him out of the equation just because of like bias or whatnot, um, I would think it would have to be Pierce is up there just because I think Pierce was one of those players that like he was never really athletic. Um, he was never really like nobody expected Pierce to come and dunk on people or whatnot. Like, Pierce really kind of stressed the fundamentals. Pierce's footwork was one of the best
He was skilled.
ever to play the game. Exactly. So those players like Pierce and Dirk, I've always kind of had a soft spot for those players.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it would either probably be between Pierce and Larry Bird. I mean, those are kind of lame answers, predictable, but I think with Larry kind of fits that mold too, where he wasn't the most athletic. Um, he looks like you just picked him up out of a McDonald's, like he was handing out burgers through the drive-through, but um, his ability to score, however, he had it. Um, Plus, I mean, with the whole like left-handed game, like, and Larry Bird's trash talk, like, Larry was like a bad man.
Yeah.
Um, but but yeah, I mean, it would probably be one of those two if KG is out of the question. But um, KG, yeah, like that's my guy. So
Yeah. I mean, especially decades removed from his career, Larry Bird is one of those people that's just so admired by NBA
yeah,
fans just for his
yeah,
all-around game and for how entertaining a personality he was.
and I still think and obviously I don't want to end this like on a bad note or negative, but like I still think like he does not get respect. Um, just because whether it's because of like what he looks like, he doesn't look like a basketball player, um, whether it's the fact that he was a Celtic, or whether it was the fact that like he performed in a time that was kind of like you know Larry and Magic kind of revitalized the game at that point. The NBA was kind of on a downfall before they came in. So I mean, there's a lot of elements to why, and plus Magic too. Magic, I mean, has more rings. Magic kind of had the limelight, but I do think like every now and then, it's definitely kind of good to kind of like throw Bird in that scenario and just kind of
Yeah.
like remind
I,
people that hey, look, like he was something. So
I think it
what
has to
about
do with
you?
what?
What about like what's your favorite Laker?
Kobe
I
Bryant.
mean, it's got to be Kobe, but
Yeah.
all right, take Kobe out of the equation.
Who? Shaq probably.
Yeah, yeah,
Shaq
I think
most
that's
likely.
fair.
There's just so many freaking Lakers that are at the
Yeah,
top, you know.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I think when it comes to Bird, it's his lack of athleticism and
hmm
how athletic players now would be like a Larry against KD scenario. Like, would Larry be able to keep up with KD? I mean, no one could keep up with KD, and would
right.
KD be able to keep up with Larry?
Yeah, yeah. I think KD. I think KD is unbelievable. Like, I think KD is another one of those players that like situationally, what happened with the Warriors and all of that. I think KD at times doesn't get the respect he deserves. I think KD just like by his playing style and how the man is built, I think that's something that we've never seen ever
Mm-hmm.
before. Um, and just like I said, what happened, with his situation. And now, if he wins a ring with the Nets, people are going to discredit him and stuff. And again, that's a whole nother debate. But um, individually, I think, yeah, KD is terrific. And I think, yeah, the point you raise is a good point. Generationally, those players, it's like the LeBron and Jordan thing, or really, going up against each other. I mean, it's just two completely different times, two completely different playing styles. So, I mean, it would be interesting to see, but I do think that, it's always nice. Like I said, it's nice to appreciate the old heads a
I
little bit.
agree. And I mean, Larry Bird was one of a kind when it came to his personality and his, his fire, and how you could put a 20-foot giant in front of the guy and he's not backing down an inch on a basketball
Right.
court in his prime. He doesn't care
Yeah.
who's in front of him. He is going to go at you, and he believes that no matter where he is on the court, the shot's going to go in. And
Hmm.
just look at his highlights. Look at all the impossible shots that he made over however many defenders, calling out his shot, calling out his spot, talking to the opponent's coach, to the opponent's bench, whatever it
Hmm.
was. He was so entertaining and just filthy in his skill
Yeah.
set and the things he could do.
And as a playmaker too, that's commonly slept on.
Yeah.
Larry was a really, really good playmaker. I mean, some of his like no look passes,
Mm-hmm.
um, were, like really, that kind of era, especially with Magic. Um, both of those guys, I mean, were terrific playmakers, but um, obviously Magic gets the credit he deserves, and he should do that. But Larry, I guess, he kind of got the outshined by Magic a little bit, but um, yeah, I mean, all around, I think he was an incredible player, even defensively. So yeah, put some respect on Larry Bird's name, man. Come on.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah,
I'm on that boat too.
yeah.
All right, Gino. Well, thank you for joining me today and for coming on the podcast talking about basketball. I mean, we talk about basketball all the time.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I mean, it's been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I am glad to be on at any time if you need somebody. Like you said, we always chop it up, talk basketball, but whenever you need a guest, bro, like I'm, one text, one call away. It was fun for sure.
Thanks, man.